Welcome to a study of the Gospel of Matthew, Part 1, Lesson 10. The King selects and sends his ambassadors to the covenant people. Matthew 10, 1 through 42. Pericope 1. The King selects his ambassadors and empowers them to proclaim the near approach of the kingdom. Matthew 10, verses 1 through 4. By this time, Jesus had had time to evaluate his followers and was ready to select 12 of them as his personal ambassadors. Then he delegated his authority to them and sent them to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. The names are placed into pairs in this list. The pairings represent family ties. Most of them are brothers or cousins. Jesus empowered them to do works associated with the age of the Messiah. We see again the delegation from the Father to the Son, and from the Son to his chosen ambassadors. They were to proclaim the same message that Jesus had been proclaiming, the near approach of the Messianic kingdom. The detailed instructions Jesus issues to his chosen ambassadors are intended to emphasize the restriction of this preaching mission to the lost sheep of the house of Israel and its conformity to Jewish customs and practices. He prepares them for the enmity of their fellow Jews. Probably Matthew means that such enmity would come from the Jewish political and religious leaders. He also tells that the proclamation of the near approach of the kingdom will divide families from one another. The proclamation of the kingdom still divides family members from one another into the present time. Jewish regard for the solidarity of the family made such a prospect very painful for them to think about. He then warns them not to be puffed up with pride in their newly delegated powers. After all, he was still their teacher, and they were only his pupils and not in any way his equals. But in these troubles and dangers, they would be protected by the Father, who considered them very valuable. Next pericope, the reward of placing the kingdom first in one's life. All those who acknowledge that they belong to Jesus in the presence of human beings will be acknowledged in the presence of the Father by the Messianic King. What a blessed promise! If we own that we belong to Jesus in this life, in the life to come, Jesus will own us before the Father and his angels in heaven, making the teaching of this unit meaningful in your life. There are 4 themes involved in this text. The Jews were included in the kingdom first. In present circumstances, it is hard to keep remembering this fact. Being in and serving the kingdom, the rule of heaven, must be the first priority in our lives. Practically, this means that it must take precedence over the most precious of family ties. 3, there are rich rewards, both in this life and in the age to come, for those who place the kingdom, the rule of heaven, first in their lives. The least hospitality shown to our fellow believers will not go unrewarded. Practically, this makes hospitality a very important aspect to be cultivated by all believers. How to make this teaching part of your daily life. Treat Jewish believers with respect and honor them for their faithfulness, for they fight a real hard battle against their fellow Jews in order to maintain their belief in Jesus as the Messiah. Carefully examine your actions and the way you spend your resources to determine whether the kingdom, the rule of heaven, is first priority in the way you're living. I had a friend one time that said, check your stubs in your checkbook and see whether you're placing it as first priority. Praise God for the rewards you're presently receiving for making the kingdom, the rule of heaven, first priority in your life. Also live in joyous anticipation of the more glorious rewards you will receive in the age to come. Always be quick to show hospitality to your fellow believers. Thank you.